everyone, it's Sammy from Sammy's Sweet Life, and this is the last video I'm going to be filming until baby girl gets here. This is going to be my week number 36 pregnancy update, and you may hear talking and phone calls in the background. Grandma Peyton is here. That's Johnny's mom, and things got super real this weekend. I'm going to talk all about it. I'm a little out of breath because I came upstairs and I was adjusting cameras and stuff. You'll see there's toys everywhere. It's been complete chaos the last couple of days, and I'm filming this on Monday, but it's been really touch and go. So I was basically hospitalized all weekend. I'm going to tell you guys the whole story. It's super TMI. Buckle up, I guess. It's just super TMI. Pregnancy in itself is TMI, and then there's some extra super duper TMI and one very embarrassing part of this whole story. And thankfully I am still pregnant. The ultimate goal was to keep her in until 37 weeks. Of course, you know, if I were to have gone into complete full labor, I would have gone ahead and taken her out with my hospital stay, but thankfully that was not the case. I was able to keep her in. She's still healthy in my belly, and we want to make it to that 37 weeks. Before I hop into the hospital part of the equation, I did have a biophysical profile ultrasound, and that's just where they make sure, you know, she's measuring really well, the fluid levels are good. They check her practice breaths. You can see like her lungs and her stomach moving where she's practicing her breaths, and she passed with flying colors. She's perfectly healthy, and she's measuring big. She was measuring like 80th percentile for weight. Of course, you know, the measurements can be off, but they have her measuring a little bit more than 6 pounds, which was shocking to me. I don't know, I kind of expected her to be a little bit smaller than that, and I'm so thankful that she's not. She's on the bigger side. Olivia didn't end up measuring big until she was overdue and came out big. We just kind of were surprised that she was so big. So this way, you know, we know that she's on the bigger side. She shouldn't have very many issues at all. She's doing her practice breaths really well. We know as best as we can that her lungs are working, so I was really relieved after that ultrasound. You guys know last week I was kind of freaking out about her being a 37-weeker. Having the ultrasound and them measuring her big, it was really reassuring for me. And like they would do like a leg bone measurement and a head measurement and all these measurements, and it gives you the estimated gestational age, and she was always measuring like 37 or 38 weeks. So that was even a couple days shy of 36 weeks when they were measuring me. So I was just really shocked that she was measuring so big. It's great for this circumstance when she's coming out a little early. I also really appreciate you guys sharing your stories with me, especially those of you who did have early babies and telling me their sizes and, you know, how everything worked out. That was so reassuring for me because I was starting to majorly freak out last week before the stories started rolling in and then before the ultrasound. And now I feel really good about 37 weeks. I started feeling really good about that 37-week mark, and then all heck broke loose this weekend. So I'm gonna get into, you know, all the TMI details, the really embarrassing for me part of this whole story. So let's start on Friday afternoon. I had to go number 2, and it's been a little bit challenging. They did put me on a medicine for cholestasis. It's called ursodiol. I had to write it down. And it just helps break up the bile salts in your system, and it's supposed to help baby and me just function a little bit better. For one thing, this medicine was very expensive, even with our insurance. It was shocking. Most of our medicines are like $15 or less, and this one was $150. So it was really expensive, even with insurance. Just keep that in mind if you have cholestasis. This is a very expensive drug. And so I'm on it twice a day. And on the pamphlet, it's got lots of side effects to look for, but one of the side effects says constipation or diarrhea. So I'm thinking it could be anything, you know, but I ended up with the constipation part of that. And I did not know it until I was in the bathroom struggling, and it was probably the worst bout of constipation I've ever had in my life, and I was straining way too much. I ended up calling Livy in the room to go get me one of her step stools so I could get a little bit of leverage, kind of like a squatty potty style thing. To be honest, I was starting to freak out. Like, I was having so much trouble going to the bathroom. It was incredibly painful, incredibly uncomfortable, and nothing was happening. So eventually I was finally able to go, but unfortunately I messed up something, and I wiped and I was bleeding, I was mucousy, there was fluid dripping out, like completely dripping out of my girly parts, and there was blood and mucus, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I maybe just broke my water. So I put on a pad, and I soaked through one pad, and I put on another pad, and I was like halfway through soaking that pad, and I was like, I think I just broke my water. I was so embarrassed thinking I had just broken my water by going to the bathroom. It was what it was at the time, so I called the nurse's hotline. I'm calling Johnny. I'm calling him in a panic. I'm calling the nurse hotline in a panic. And my doctor ended up being the one on call, thankfully. She called me back and she's like, okay, just go into the hospital and they'll take care of everything. Just get there as soon as you can. So I'm getting kind of nervous because Grandma wasn't here at that point. Thankfully, our neighbors were here and they are just phenomenal. They're grandparents and they take that role with Olivia too. They're like grandparents for her. So they came over, they helped me pack a bag. I didn't even have a bag packed and I'm like freaking out. She ended up spending the night with them, just having, a little sleepover. They're like getting her stuff packed. We're talking about like dinner because I haven't even cooked dinner at this point. It was like 5 p.m. when all this stuff started happening. So Johnny's rushing home. We're getting the bags packed. We're getting Livy taken care of and we rushed to the hospital. They immediately checked me into triage. I'm still leaking a little bit of fluid. It's like pink tinged at this point. At first it was pretty bloody and mucusy. I thought at that point when I was getting the bloody mucus that maybe that was my mucus plug. I never had any of these things with Olivia. I never went to triage with her either. I was induced with her, so we just kind of walked in and it was really relaxing and calm. And this time it's like I'm in triage with the women like fully into labor, getting into their labor and delivery rooms. We do the whole thing. In the gown, on the monitors. I'm contracting every 4 minutes at this point and still leaking a little bit of the pink tinged fluid, and they check my fluid to see if it's amniotic fluid and it wasn't. So that was kind of weird, and I'm still having the 4-minute apart contractions. They check me and I'm completely closed. My cervix is completely 100% closed at this point. And so at this point it's like 7:30 at night and the doctor came in to check me, and when she checked me, I started gushing blood out my girly bits. So they ended up finding a big tear in there and I have varicose veins in there, which I didn't know. So when I was straining, I popped one. I almost needed a couple of stitches for that because the tear was pretty big and that's what caused everything. She's like, oh yeah, when you have these varicose veins, they can leak fluid and they can also bleed. And she said, that's where everything came from. So we found the source of the issue. It was not my water breaking, thankfully. And so they were thinking about, letting me go home once the blood stopped. But my contractions were every 4 minutes and they were getting stronger and I was starting to feel them. So they're like, we don't know if you're going into labor or not. At this point, they were just observing me. They weren't sure if I was going to get sent home. So I stayed in triage for a couple of hours and they were just monitoring me, and the contractions got worse to where I was starting to really feel them and really get crampy. And so they checked me again and my cervix was still basically pretty much closed. Like they could poke like the tip of a finger in the very tip of the cervix and that was it. Like no opening whatsoever. At this point, they had given me 1 steroid shot and they wanted to do 2 steroid shots. And at the time, I did not know they had to be 24 hours apart. So that was a little bit of a shocker. And if you've never had a steroid shot near the end of your pregnancy, it goes in your butt. So it's a really big needle and it's very painful. And my butt is still sore from these shots. So just keep that in mind. They're not just a little tiny shot, it's a big one. And like I said, at the time, I did not know, once they gave me the first shot, they were gonna keep me 24 hours after that shot as well because I need 2 doses. So at this point, like all of my lady bits were completely swollen and completely sore. And at this point, my contractions are 4 minutes apart. They're getting stronger. They're waiting for some sort of dilation so they can take me in and get her out basically, but I wasn't showing major signs of labor. They did get me my own room. I was gonna stay overnight because at this point it was already like 1 a.m. They just kept an eye on me, and throughout the whole night I was still having the 4-minute apart contractions, and at this point I did not know they were planning on keeping me for an extra 24 hours. I just thought, they'd give me the other shot in a little while and eventually they'd realize if the contractions are getting stronger or if they're just kind of tapering off or they're just gonna stay steady, they could send me home. So at this point I'm thinking, I'll go home in the morning. Like, it's no big deal. We'll stay one night, no big deal. And then I come to find out they're gonna keep me at least until midnight the next night because of the steroid shot. And all through the night and all through the next day, I was still having 4-minute apart contractions. They never let up. They had given me fluids and things to try to slow it down. Nothing ever changed with that. And even still, I'm having 4-minute apart contractions. It just never caused anything. And it's very similar to Olivia's last few weeks of pregnancy. Every time they put me on the monitors, I was having really close together contractions. They just never amounted to anything. So I don't know if it's just my cervix never wants to open. That was really the case with Olivia's pregnancy. And it would have been a really good thing this pregnancy if I still had the placenta previa, because you don't want your cervix to start dilating early. That's the you know, the bleeding risk with placenta previa, but thankfully I don't have that. I do have the cholestasis though. But anyway, my cervix never dilated this whole event where I'm there and I'm having the contractions. So midday through the second day, which was Saturday, I started feeling the contractions. I was having major cramps with the contractions, and I thought, oh boy, they're not gonna let me go home. And at this point, I'm thinking they're gonna keep me for a week because I'm not at that 37-week mark yet. And I was really worried I was gonna have to stay for a really long time. So that afternoon was the worst painful part for me for the contractions. I was having it felt like super strong period cramps, and also the tightness around my lower belly. I've not had like full belly tightness around the middle part, but that's where the monitor was, and it was picking up on the tightness there. So I just didn't feel it. And when I first got there, after a couple of hours, the doctor's like, okay, are they picking up? Do you feel any different? And I was like, not really, like it's feeling tight. She's like, I'm really shocked you're not in any pain based on, you know, they're going every 4 minutes, they're getting spikier, and I don't know, I didn't feel really bad with them. I think part of it was my lady bits were so swollen and painful that none of the other stuff felt painful, but by that second afternoon in the hospital, I was really feeling them. And I was like 2 seconds away from getting some pain medicine, but I just kind of pushed through it. So that was Saturday, my second day in the hospital. By that point, Grandma had gotten her flights and she got here Saturday night. So she is here until after baby gets here now. It was really good to have the extra help. I'm so thankful that our neighbors were able to help us out, and Johnny's been going back and forth. So a lot of the time in the hospital, it was just me hanging out in the hospital by myself pretty much. And so Saturday night, I got my second dose of the steroid 24 hours after the first one. I was like, okay, the doc had come in and said after my steroid shot, I could probably be discharged according to the doctor. She had come in a little bit earlier, and she's like, we don't discharge at midnight, so you're gonna stay overnight again. We're just gonna keep an eye on you. And again, still having the 4-minute contractions, and they let me go home finally the next afternoon. I finally got home. So it was basically 2 days of me being in the hospital, and it was rough. I'm still having just like those little contractions. They do pick up here and there where I feel them more and I'll get crampy, but nothing major, just still nothing major. And that was kind of like what happened with Livy's pregnancy. I was having them, you know, around the clock, but nothing progressed. And basically they told me the whole time I was there, like, you know, if you start dilating, we're gonna take her out. If the pain gets really bad and you start going into full labor, we're gonna take her out. The goal was to just keep her in, and they didn't give me medicines to like try to keep her in. They just gave me the fluids to try to slow things down a little bit, and they were just watching, you know, watching for any signs of trouble with the baby. I was on the monitor the entire time I was there, aside from they let me take like one walk around the hospital, and at that point I was so sore I took a very short walk. Thankfully Sunday when I got discharged, I was able to walk a lot better than I had been, except my butt is sore. They gave me a steroid shot on both sides, and so I'm really sore with that. I'm also very tired because I did not get a whole lot of sleep in the hospital. They come check vitals, and she moves around so much. They kept having to readjust the heart rate monitor to make sure that she was still okay, because that's just, you know, part of the risk with cholestasis. They wanted to make sure they could hear her heartbeat, and thankfully the whole time she never went into distress or anything, but that's something, you know, they were waiting for. If she went into any kind of distress, they would have rushed and taken her out immediately. And now at this point, she's had the 2 steroid shots to help develop her lungs, and she should be, you know, good to go when the time comes. We're just really trying to hit the 37-week mark. It gives her the best chances of not needing a NICU stay, and for her lungs and everything to be completely developed, and she can come out the strongest that she possibly can. But throughout the whole thing, she was totally perfect. It was all on my end of things. And basically, if anything changes at all, if things get more painful, if I leak any sort of fluids at all, if I start bleeding again, they want me back and they're gonna take her out. So I'm really trying to take it easy. They did not put me on restriction. They just said, follow my body, take a rest when I need rest, don't overdo it. Just we're all kind of on high alert at this point. Thankfully, Grandma's here, so we're okay on that end. Livy's taken care of. It was getting a little scary because neighbors were gonna watch Olivia on Friday night, and they're like, well, we're leaving Sunday for vacation. So we're like, okay, Grandma's gotta get here if we can get her here, because then we don't have backup. You know, our neighbors are our backup. Worst came to worst, I know one of our friends from preschool would watch her no problem. It's definitely easier when she's just right next door with our neighbors. But I'm so glad that they took her, and I'm so glad that Grandma's here, and I'm just gonna be taking it really, really easy this next week. And that second day in the hospital, I thought for sure they were just gonna keep me until 37 weeks because the contractions weren't letting up and they were getting worse for a little bit, but I wasn't dilating, and I I just was really worried they were going to keep me there a whole week. And I'm so thankful it was just basically 2 days, a little bit under 48 hours. I went in one evening and then stayed an entire day and then stayed like half of the next day. It ended up being 2 overnights, 2 half days, and 1 full day. So it ended up being right at about 2 days. And it was just miserable. Just miserable being in the hospital, being so touch and go. Like I just didn't know what was gonna happen because I was still contracting the whole time. And basically there were like 3 goals. Make sure the bleeding would stop, make sure I could get the 2 doses of steroids in, and also make sure the contractions weren't turning into full labor. So thankfully, everything's okay with that. They do have me on stool softeners now. I was kind of mortified thinking I strained too hard, busted blood vessels, and that's what caused this whole ordeal. But you know, it happens, and I really wanted to share that with you guys because it can happen. So if you're having any kind of struggles, take the stool softeners. I'm on them full time now. I'm 36 weeks and a couple of days at this point, so I've just got to make it like 5 more days and then they'll take her out. So I find it funny and not funny, but like I had a C-section the first time, I'm scheduled for the C-section this time, and you know, my lady bits up until this point were okay, and now I may have ruined them anyway. So I was kind of disappointed. It's kind of funny and not funny. I'm gonna go ahead and walk through my questions, even though that was like the main event from the week. Hopefully that's the only hospital problem we have, and we can just, you know, go calmly into the hospital for the scheduled C-section when the time comes. I do have a doctor's appointment this week with hopefully my last ultrasound, and then we just get a C-section date at that point. So hopefully everything here on out is really smooth. So anyway, let's go ahead and walk down my questions. I'm at 36 weeks and baby is the size of a honeydew melon, so very big. As far as symptoms, I have had the constipation, I've had the stronger contractions, I've had major back pain, I have the sore booty because of the shots. I am getting more swollen and puffy, and I think part of that is, you know, just the ends of pregnancy. I told you my feet swell near the end of the day. Nothing sudden or major or scary, but it's just something to note. And I got swollen after they gave me tons of fluids, so I think I'm still kind of working off the fluids. And then I told you guys about the hospital stay event. As far as cravings, I still want fruit roll-ups. I have been just guzzling water like crazy. I've also really liked French onion soup. I did end up making it a second time, and I really want Reese's. So I got Reese's Puffs and also like the miniature Reese's. I want to stick them in ice cream, and we ended up getting groceries so late, and I ate dinner so late. I didn't have any dessert. I didn't want to have major heartburn in the end of the day, so I skipped the dessert. I'm gonna have that sometime today. No real aversions, except we were at Olivia's dance class and all the parents kind of sit outside of the dance studio, and somebody came and sat next to me chewing mint gum, and I had to go to the bathroom for a while and just get away from the smell, because you guys know mint's so bad, and they were like smacking it and I could smell it and it was terrible. There were no other chairs, so I couldn't like move to the other side, and I was kind of trapped there. So I did get a little bit of relief going to the bathroom and getting away from the mint gum. As far as weight, I am at 202, and I think part of that is all the fluid retention from this whole ordeal. But that puts me 3 pounds up for this week, and it puts me at 35 pounds overall. And I watched my week number 36 video when I was pregnant with Olivia, and I was right at 35 pounds with her pregnancy at this point. So I thought that was really interesting. Usually the weeks have been off, but I finally caught up with my weight my first time. New discoveries, definitely take your stool softeners if there's any chance. I did not realize going into it that I was gonna get so constipated from the new medicine. It just, I don't know, it said constipation or diarrhea, so I'm thinking, you know, it's not that big a deal, but it was a big, big deal. Compared to my pregnancy with Olivia, this one has been just a roller coaster, like one thing after the other. I never had any hospital scares. There was one time I thought my water broke with her, and it was just a leaked pee. It was just one little time. I didn't even go in. So different this time. Everything has been a lot harder this time, and I'm just shocked how different it was. And I thought, you know, with Olivia's pregnancy, I thought it was smooth, but I also thought there were problems. And now looking back, I was like, it was like the most ideal pregnancy ever, and this one has been just crazy. I'm just so thankful that all of the complications have been my end of complications, and they haven't affected baby at all. She's just been perfect and strong and healthy, and I'm just really thankful for that. And so the best thing was getting out of the hospital. I was really convinced by that second day they were gonna just kind of keep me. Also, the best thing is baby is doing perfect. She was strong and healthy, and she's measuring big, so I think we'll be good for 37 weeks if we make it that long. And also, the worst thing was going to the hospital and being there and not knowing, you know, it was really touch and go for a while. I wasn't sure if we were going to come out with a baby, to be honest. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. So that part was really scary, and especially in the beginning when they're saying it wasn't amniotic fluid, I was like, okay, then what's happening? It's clearly not just me peeing myself, because there's blood, there's mucus. Like, it was very disturbing what was happening, and I'm like, well, if it's not amniotic fluid, then what the heck's going on? So I'm really glad they figured out what the problem was, and I never have heard of internal varicose veins. You know, I think of that on your legs, but I did not know that was a thing. So it's definitely a thing. I found out the hard way. And then on the agenda this week, it's twofold. One is just to relax and keep baby in as long as we can. And the other thing is I have a sprinkle. My friends planned a sprinkle for me, and even this weekend I'm thinking, like, if I give birth, I'm gonna miss my own sprinkle. And so it's really crazy, but I'm so glad I'll hopefully be able to go to that. I'm really thankful that they're throwing that for me. It's just really sweet of them, but I'm really excited they planned this out, and it's at this really beautiful location, and it should just be a really good time. And that's it. I didn't have any questions, and this is gonna be my last of these weekly pregnancy updates because week 37 is go time. And so yeah, this one was crazy. I did not think I would ever have one of the hospital scares, because I just, you know, I walked in, I'm setting my iPad down by the way. I walked in and you know, they just took me to a room, they started my induction with her, everything was really calm and peaceful, and this was totally different. This was me freaking out and panicking that, you know, I thought my water had broken, and I thought I caused it by the issues that I was having, but thankfully everything's okay, she's okay, and we're just trying to make it a few more days. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the bump. This will be the last bump date, and I'm a little bit over in the room. Usually I'm a few feet that way because she has all her puzzles out. They were working on some fun stuff. So let's see, push this up. So here is 36-week belly, and it is big and round, and I'm ready to meet this little one. It is Monday. I did just post my grocery video for the week, and I was thinking that was gonna be our last one until baby gets here, but I ended up going crazy. We went to Trader Joe's yesterday, and I also ordered a ton of groceries because Grandma's here a week sooner than we expected. All of this stuff happened, so I ended up stocking the house just full of lots of snacks, lots of fruit, really, really easy things that any of us could cook. So we are set to go for baby go time when the time is here. I did film this huge grocery haul, and I will have that up at some point, but not this week. I already posted one for this week. Pretty much that's it. I did film my baby haul video. That should go up this week as well, and then that's it. I don't have anything planned out for next week. I'm probably not gonna edit anything for next week. It'll just be baby time. And so I want to let you guys know I will be updating on my Instagram when she's born or anything else that goes on. I'll try to update over there and let you guys know. I'm the Scrap Master. It's my scrapbook name, so be sure to check over there if you want more like real-time updates, because I don't know when I'm gonna post to this channel. I hope to come back and be like, here's baby, just like I did with Olivia, tell you guys her name, tell you how everything went. But I don't know when that's gonna get posted. That part will definitely take me a while, so be sure to check the Instagram if you wanna know real-time updates, but this is gonna be my last video of me filming until she gets here. And that is it, so be sure that you're subscribed so you know when I come back. I do have some videos that I can put up on this channel in the interim, but I don't know how it's gonna go. I have not edited any of them. I was really thinking this last weekend I would have a chance to edit a few of them, get them scheduled for you guys over the next few weeks, and it did not happen. Totally didn't happen. I honestly wasn't even sure the grocery haul was gonna go up today because that's how crazy everything was these last few days. I will be back when I'm back, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.